I'm relieved this evening. I'm relieved to see Fort Nelson and West Moberly taking a stand against fracking. I know that they've been struggling with how to deal with this issue for some time now. Kathy came and addressed the Coastal First Nations, and at that time she indicated that they needed a plan, and that's what everybody needs, and that's what you've heard Ben say. That's what Coastal First Nations has done. We have come up with a land use plan. We're doing a marine use plan, and anything that impacts the plan that we have is something that we'll fight with all that we've got. I think that you folks are well on the way to dealing with this issue in a very intelligent way. You've got great leadership, you've got good speakers, you know what the heck you're talking about, and you're really grounded in your land. And what I've learned over the last decade, because it has been almost a decade since Coastal First Nations began fighting the Enbridge battle. It was actually 25 or 26 years ago that we first had a oil pipeline proposed to go through the Great Bear Rainforest. And we fought it then, and it's been renewed about 7 years ago with Enbridge, and we've been fighting with all of our might since then. And what I've learned in traveling into Alaska to see what happened in the Exxon Valdez, I've been down into the Gulf of Mexico, and I've met with the Houma Nation there, and the Cajuns in Louisiana. And really what all of these people have said is you just can't do it alone. You know, I know you guys have been alone, you've been up there trying to do it, and really you're not going to get anywhere doing that. You really need to rally out there, you really need to get out to the rest of British Columbia. We live in a really spectacular place here. We live in a province that is alive and well. It is nourished by these veins that we call rivers, the Skeena and the Fraser and the Mackenzie, and we've got all these other little veins that run into it, and we all depend on water, whether we admit it or not. That's really what everything depends on. All of the natural capital that we have in this province, whether it be game, moose or caribou or sheep or deer, whether it's salmon, whether it's trees, everything depends on the water. And really, everywhere that I've ever gone, that's what everybody talks about. That's really what we understand as Canadians, perhaps not so well in our neighboring province, but we sure as heck understand it in British Columbia. And if you guys get your message out, I have absolutely no doubt that British Columbians are going to support you. Coastal First Nations over the last 7 years have gone from a point where nobody even wanted to listen to us, where we now have the support of in excess of 80% of British Columbia supports stopping tankers on the coast of BC. I say I'm relieved because I know that Coastal First Nations are going to support you folks. Damien talked about some numbers here, and I'm going to throw some numbers at you as well. Damien talked about Shell in Kitimat, but the reality is there's actually 5 LNG plants on tap, and they're going to require between 3,600 and 4,200 megawatts of power. Now you heard him talk about Site C, that's 1,100 megawatts. 1 megawatt of power is enough power to power up 1,000 homes. So 1,000 megawatts is 1,000,000 homes. So 3,600 megawatts is 3.6 million homes. That's how much power this new industry is going to demand. I say 3,600 to 4,200 because BC Hydro says they've got 600 megawatts available now. But I hear they're withdrawing that. They're telling the industry to do it all yourself. Use all natural gas to liquefy gas. So that energy that's required to liquefy that is going to be equivalent to more than all of the homes in British Columbia. That's what they're proposing to do here. And you know what kind of pollution that puts out there? The carbon monoxide, the carbon dioxide, the nitrous oxide, everything that goes out there is going to pollute this area that we live in. I agree with Ben as well. Coastal First Nations has looked at this and wondered, why on God's green earth do these people want to suck this non-renewable resource out of us so fast so that there's no legacy left for our children? Why do they want to do this? And you're absolutely right. It's just for the almighty buck. That is the only reason out there. The only voice of reason that I heard come out of Alberta came out in late September, and I couldn't believe where I heard it from. It was out of Shell, of all places. Shell had analyzed what was going on in the tar sands and said that if the provincial government in Alberta did not stop the production of oil in Alberta at the level that it was already approved at, that it would kill all of the caribou in Alberta. This is Shell said this. And they also said that if they didn't stop it at the level that it was at, that it would acidify another 23 lakes in Alberta. This is Shell. Now why the heck would they say it? All they care about is money. Well, you're absolutely right. They've already got their oil, and they don't want anybody else to get any because it'll drive their market down. But it just gives you an idea of what's going on. I was out into Fort Chip, or Fort McMurray last summer for a little hike around the Syncrude plant, and it's like a bomb went off in this area, and I'm sure that's what you folks are heading for if you don't stop it now. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I can't believe that we as British Columbians wouldn't do everything that we could do in order to stop this. And so I'm going to ask you folks, if you come out, I have a board meeting in the first week of December, and I'm going to ask you guys to come down and ask for our help in stopping this. Kathy, when you joined us the last time, you told us that you wanted to see a plan, that you guys were working on it, but you didn't ask us to take any kind of action. Well, let me tell you, these folks have been really busy with Coastal First Nations because we've shown the power that we have in convincing British Columbians to stop Enbridge. They look at us as some kind of big, fierce animal that you've got to be careful with. One of these companies has offered Coastal First Nations and our partners $40 million a year. $40 million a year in revenue sharing. That's one of them. And there's 5 of them. Those are the kind of dollars that are being offered out there to try and get us to loosen up in what we've done. Now, Coastal First Nations has not yet come out with a position on natural gas. We have one First Nation who has a partnership in it, but I think you guys need to come and talk to us in the first week of December, and I'm sure that our board will agree that we need to do everything we can to help you folks, and I want to thank you guys all for coming out. And this is just the beginning of a real good thing here, because I know you guys have got the talent to go out there, tell your story, show what your environment looks like, and the rest of British Columbia will rise up and help you guys save it. Thanks for coming out tonight.